What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. Hope you're all having a good Wednesday. Sheets with another big night last night. That was awesome stuff. We were sweating it out, hoping that he could catch a little magic at the end and take down the 762 for first. And I sent Sheets an email thing because I was in fifth and he was in sixth at one point. He had more innings left than I did, but I had guys who the other guys didn't have. So it was looking like I was hoping for a 1-2 out of the Team True DFS over here. But Sheets did great, and I'll let him talk about that in just a second and talk about some of the things that he did and what we did. But I think that, we were touching on a pre-show, and we'll talk a little bit more about this kind of stuff in general. We really came to an agreement as a group, and the people in chat and us, that we were not playing DeGrom. And when I saw DeGrom's ownership, I was actually blown away at, in my opinion, how bad people are given the situation. I don't think I was leaning, okay, maybe you can get away with doing him in a few lineups because this is a spot where maybe people won't play him or they'll be afraid to. And we ended up just I ended up with like 10% of them in like, $6, $4 tournaments or whatever. But I didn't play him in anything significant because it seemed so ridiculous. And we've seen this with DeGrom before, even if the game played. I'm not 100% convinced that he would have pitched. So it was a really, really weird slate. And it was, always great when you can get a guy who's 50% owned out of basically with his automatic zero, who's the most popular player and the most popular pitcher and the most expensive player. But it paved the way for us to have a really nice night. I did well, but I didn't do as well as Sheets. Sheets, talk a little bit about it and sort of what happened with that lineup. If you don't mind even sharing it,
well,
if you have it, but if not,
yeah. Well, it was the ultimate in process, right? Because we talked about it all day long, and what we were talking about. Well, first, when we were assuming that DeGrom was playing, I basically came to the conclusion that I had no idea what to do at SP2. In other words, I had all these different guys that I thought were somewhat equal, right? And then when we kind of came to the agreement that, and we totally did it as a group. It's like the funniest thing, you know what I mean? It was a combination of stats, feel, and all this stuff. And we were checking Twitters and getting just a sense of it. And I just said, and I said it right to everybody out there, but listen, there's going to be no DeGrom in this house. And that's what I said. And so with that said, I had already made a build without DeGrom in it. So I didn't have to like uber scramble, and I had some everybody. I had Lopez who did nicely, I had some Talion who did obviously really nicely. And I had Rodon, and I even had Ian Anderson just did well enough, so because DeGrom was out, I was able to get to those Toronto dudes, and I ended up doing really well. But then I have to say, let me share my screen because I do want to show you something funny.
I also think it's important about lineup construction. For those of you who think you need to have a 5-man stack, so you didn't have a 5-man stack, you had a 4-3-1, and just wanted to point that out. I believe it was a 4-3-1. Because everybody's convinced that you need the 5-man stacks to win, and I'll always take the pivot on that.
Well, the other thing is the concept of saying, well, you can't play chalk. I mean, I had just all kinds of Phillies. So let me share my screen because I do want to show you just something kind of funny. I told you about it last time. I want to share everybody here too. So this was the Ohtani did well. See, I didn't really. Rodon was the highest owned guy I had, and he was probably the safest. Mm-hmm. So the interesting thing about this lineup was I got a notification at 8. This is not the way it started. I had a notification at like 9:20, which was like 2 minutes, which was like 10 minutes before the Arizona game, that Rojas was out. Okay, so Rojas undisclosed is out. And I noticed it with like 8 minutes left. I'm like, okay, I am not going to take zeros. I scrambled to my computer. I had like 7 people at the freaking house. I said, Stacey, I got it. I got to do this. I went there and I just pulled up my finger. I'm like, who can I play at shortstop that I can afford? And this Sosa guy was literally the only guy that I could choose. Right? So to be quite honest, it was going to be a 3-man also with Arizona, because Rojas was going to be in that right in there. But I ended up just going for Sosa, and he hit a freaking big old fashioned home run in the 8th at 0.2% ownership. And I said it to Bobby. I said, listen, there's a 0.2% owned guy just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Especially the way I play. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take guys that are are going to project terribly, because those are the guys that are going to be 0.2%. So I did get incredibly lucky through my own incompetence that I was able to get to Sosa. But nonetheless, Segura totally blew up. Harper went freaking ballistic. And the quote-unquote chalky Jankowski went off only 6% owned, which was very
way higher than it should have been, in my opinion, but whatever.
Yeah, no, that's why. And I remember that you had said that, because you didn't think he was very good. But it was funny is that I just thought he was going to be chalky, and I just kind of like built it. And this is kind of, I guess, got lucky. This is the way it worked out. But 25 runs, and they were, it was pretty much chalky, and it was plenty. And I got lucky in that Toronto, even when they're getting crushed, I mean, they still in those last couple innings, they just all have all that freaking solo home run upside. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of psyched with it, So I really wasn't in contention to win, really. I mean, this guy had a freaking badass lineup, and I was just never catching him. But I did get caught at the end by this guy cost me like 15,000. I was cashing for like 25,000.
Yeah.
Was it this guy? No, the Royal Pain, because he had the tally on.
Yeah.
He got one last poke by one of these Yankees in the ninth, followed by the Italian W, which kind of which got me. But dude, I was psyched. I said during the show, man, I'm not a dude. I'll take my 5 figures when they come and be freaking happy about it.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, great job, man. That was really, really cool. If you scroll down a tiny bit on that page, you would see me at 12th. I just missed it, but still, it was good stuff.
Oh wait, one other thing about that happened from yesterday is that I won another. Wasn't a 3,500 satellite, but I won a satellite into like the 1,200. And I finally beat the BK Rider because BK Rider had DeGrom.
No, I honestly just think people. I really think that was so foolish on people's parts. I really can't believe people decided not to come off of it at all. I mean, we talked it through, and I was going to go with it. And by the time we were done talking, I saw the most updated weather and the delay and everything. I said, "No way, not going to happen." You know what I mean? For anything big, and I cannot believe people played him at 50% on.
But look at how lucky I got. So I beat him by 15 points. And I'm pretty sure DeGrom would have been good for 15 points.
Yeah, I think
yeah, that's the way it goes, man. Sorry.
Yeah, you take advantage of everything.
Dude, he was 50% owned in this thing, DeGrom.
That's what I'm saying. That's what he was in the big buy-ins too. And I just honestly was like, I don't know. I mean, on a 15-game slate, maybe it was a 4-game slate. That makes some sense, but that makes no sense there.
Wait,
all right.
Before we go on, I think I'm that's not gonna be a fortune, but I'm on track to reach my goal. I think I'm gonna be a winner in this tennis GPP.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna be tied with a bunch of people. Fair, and I said that going in.
Yeah.
But I think I'm in good shape. So again, just on principle, I want to win a GPP in like every freaking sport.
I love it, man. That would be awesome. Yeah, and just for you guys out there, like, look, check out TrueDFS.com. Obviously, we're still adding and doing things, and we're starting to charge literally any day now. But right now, as long as the stuff is free, especially, you guys should definitely be checking out Sheets' information. He's plugging these things in and just keeps printing money. So this is a really, really, really good tool. So I would suggest you guys check that out. And with that said, I think we're ready to move on to today. It's going to be hard to duplicate yesterday, but that was pretty great stuff. But hopefully we can.
Dude, of course, it's not going to be hard to duplicate. Yeah, I mean, we lost. I didn't win. I got third, fourth.
I know, but those third and fourths are going to pay more than the first tonight. So that's the only thing I was thinking.
All right, so what we have is, first of all, we have the $6 on DraftKings. So we're probably going to have to put some lineups in. Tonight, I think, but let's see how it goes. I guess first thing, overall slate view. We do have some weather in Chicago, right?
Yeah. The weather, wind blowing in. I don't,
Why is that?
Yeah, I don't have like. I don't know. It's hard to speculate this far in advance, but I don't have that as a. I have that as a risky game, but it's hard to know like what to do exactly. I think we're just gonna have to pretend these games are playing.
All right, so let's go game by game, and they're making the mistake of having Matt Harvey pitch to the Blue Jays.
Yeah, that's going to be an annoying one. Now, the thing is, they actually didn't get him too bad the last time they faced him. But on this slate, it's very hard to see how this isn't by far the chalk of everything. And I completely understand it, and I'm ready to do it. The only argument is how do you get everybody in, because it's expensive. But I think you're going to see as condensed chalk as you ever see tonight for the Blue Jays. Obviously, I have the Blue Jays as the #1 stack. Going to be trying to find ways to get different and go different elsewhere. One thing you can do is, because they have 4 outfielders, is play Grichuk and Gurriel as 2 lower owned. Look, they're all going to be owned, but lower owned options, and do a wraparound with Gurriel, Grichuk, McGuire. Maybe you go either, and then Bichette and Guerrero or something like that. Because I do think that Gurriel will be the lowest owned. He still has plenty of power. He's just batting 8th. Grichuk has plenty of power. He's batting 7th probably. So that's the way I would just initially try to get different if I was going to go within the stack, is to stack the bottom of the lineup in a wraparound or something like that. How about you?
I got a couple of teams I could play to pivot off Toronto.
Sure.
But as you absolutely accurately mentioned, they, in my head, they are probably going to score the most runs and score the most fantasy points. And of course, begging the question, like you said, play them. So you need 2 things, right? I think you need enough salary savings elsewhere to make it work, and probably you need enough ownership savings to make it work also. So I currently have them right now as, just like you said, just mega uber chalk. I'm probably inclined in my main buy-in to not play them. But they certainly rate to be the top play. The other thing I will mention is that, fortunately I really didn't need them, because I got off of them, was Baltimore yesterday. I was talking them up pretty heavy yesterday afternoon. Then I just kind of got off, and they had a good game, and they're cheap again as well. So I would, I know Ryu is obviously, a good pitcher and everything, but I don't know. I think these guys are pretty cheap, and I would include them. Maybe I don't want to stack them, but maybe, I don't know, maybe some one-offs here. I have still Hayes and what's his name? Santander. Really, really cheap. I mean, 2,400, 2,800. So I still consider those 2 like pretty good cheap one-offs to get other guys in.
Yeah, and I think you could include Mountcastle in that as well. I'm not stacking. There's no way I'm stacking against Ryu. I just think that's a bad.
Right.
I also think Ryu, like, what worries me about him right now, because I would be. This was a couple weeks ago, or sometime in May. I would have been talking about Ryu as being an obvious chalk pitcher that we want to take, and now you're going to get very little ownership on him. Well, you'll get some on DraftKings because of the lack of other options, but it's still Baltimore. He did just face this team twice with mixed results: 23 one game, 11.6 the other. He did pitch 6.2 and 7 innings in those games, but the strikeouts were way down, which has me a little bit concerned. So definitely not the first guy I'm trying to get to. And I agree about the value for Baltimore. I just don't want to go crazy with it. Even Mancini at 3.9 is cheap. I don't think I'm stacking Baltimore tonight, but I do think Rio is going to be a tougher play than I'd like, just because you do have an extreme pitchers umpire in this game, if that helps at all. And Rio has a 4.5 K prop. It's just so low for a guy 8.3, but I could see him having a good game and mowing them down pretty, easily here today. So we'll talk about it, but pitching is kind of hard to come by on this slate outside of a couple spots, depending on what we get with the Mets situation. I'm pretty much done with that. You ready to keep going?
Yep.
Dodgers in Miami. Am I missing something in this game? I must be. Let me just get the total pulled up for a second. Sorry about that, because this is kind of important. Am I really missing something in this game? Did they not announce a doubleheader or something? I don't even.
Why these guys are?
I don't have a total for the game. I don't have any projected ownership hardly on anybody in this game. You played the day slate? There's no Dodger game during the day, right? Let me just double check my calendar here.
No. This is the Dodgers regular game.
Why is there nothing in this game? Because,
What do you mean nothing in the game?
It's just there's no the projections are all screwed up.
I don't know. I got some stuff.
Well, I do too, but that's the point is that why don't we have a spread? Why is there no total? I mean, there's nothing written up about this game basically. So anyway, I'm sure it's just anyway, the Dodgers are the second or third best stack on the slate in my opinion. Yeah. I don't really understand what's happening. So yeah, I would put the Dodgers second, third best on the slate. You don't love the conditions, the pitching conditions. I'm sorry, the hitting conditions here in Miami with the roof closed. I'm sure it's closed. I haven't double checked yet, but it's been closed every day during the summer pretty much lately. So I'm all on board with the Dodgers stack against Hess and then an awful bullpen. Obviously, it's it's going to be hard to pay for them. Maybe that's why they're so low owned because of the pricing of the Blue Jays. But Cody Bellinger would be one of the priority plays of the day for me. Pollock, Will Smith, Betts, Lux, and Taylor. I like all of them. I think Lux and Bellinger are the main ones I'd want to get in personally. So that's where I'm at. But I really do like the Dodgers stack here, and if it's going to really be unowned, I completely love it.
So I had Pablo Lopez a decent amount yesterday, and he's a really, really good pitcher. And he ended up with like 19 fantasy points. I don't say got lucky. He worked his way out of like a bases loaded with bet. It was first and second with 2 outs, and then the pitcher got on base, and then he had to strike out Betts to end the inning, to end his day. I bring it up because he pitched 4 innings and threw 96 pitches in 4 innings. And the reason why, one of them is, man, these Dodgers are tough, man. There was one at bat where Bellinger, it was like 0-2 or something. And then he worked out like a freaking 13 pitch at bat before hitting a freaking triple. It was like, and then fortunately they took it back. They gave the right fielder an error instead of the triple, but whatever. And so the Dodgers, they work these freaking pitchers. So whoever they got going, the Hess, then the bullpen, whatever it is, I'm with you. I think the Dodgers are very, very legitimate, viable, obvious pivot, I guess, right? Off of Toronto, and I'm totally on there. Do you like? Is this one day to do something funny like play Price out of the bullpen or no?
No.
Okay.
I don't even know if you know who it would be. I don't know if Price would even be the guy.
Oh, it says. Well, I'm just looking at DraftKings. It says Price PL.
Didn't Price just pitch like 2 days ago for like 4 innings? I don't know.
I have no idea. I didn't really think about it. I'm just kind of staring at it.
Yeah, I guess that. What's his price?
5,500.
Yeah, I can't get to. I mean, he sucks anyway too.
Oh well, okay. Well, then he sucks.
I know he's 4-0, but he's terrible. Which does bring me that I don't mind Alfaro on the other side. I don't mind Duvall, but I don't think I'm going to end up getting to much Miami today.
Okay, I was getting to none of either.
Yeah. Then you have the 7-inning game with Milwaukee and New York. It's kind of hard to know. We don't know what's going to happen with this. So on the early slate, I'm guessing, did they have the Mets game on the early slate? Do you remember? No. So I don't know what's going to happen, whether DeGrom is going to pitch tonight or not. Obviously, if DeGrom pitches, especially on this slate, he's the number 1 pitching option. And on any slate, unless they're going to rain out. There is weather concerns also in this. There's a doubleheader going on here, so I don't know what's going to actually happen. My guess is that you won't see DeGrom tonight, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So if he pitches, he's my only interest level in this game. I'm not going to touch anything else. How about you?
I agree with that completely.
The only thing is that maybe we're selling Brett Anderson a little short. 7-inning game. He only has to really go 5 or 6. He's cheap. He just put up 32 the start before last that he had. He pitched 7 innings in that game. He was terrible the last time out. No big deal. I can always chalk it up. If as a long shot GPP play, I think Brett Anderson is actually in play. I know it sounds weird, but that's where I'm at right now. It's a really, really weird slate. And this Robert Stock guy, I don't know enough about, but he did pitch 4 innings. Wait, no, that can't be right. They're going to have him and Anderson. No, that's, hold on. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do anything with that. I just was trying to figure out why or who he was. Yeah, so Brett Anderson is the only mild interest in that game for me, and along with DeGrom if he pitches, obviously. And then we get to Philly and Chicago with the opposite weather. We do have some weather issues in this game, but assuming that it does play, I would put Zach Wheeler. In fact, even if DeGrom pitches, I really still like Wheeler quite a bit. I think he's your obvious SP1. If there is no DeGrom, the Cubs strike out a lot. You have the wind blowing in now. You look at Wheeler's track record. I mean, what has he had? 1 game that we wouldn't have loved, in the last 9 starts. And then you get Chicago, who's the highest strikeout team over the last month and a half. You do have an extreme hitters umpire in this game, but I'm still all aboard. Let's play Zach Wheeler, and he'll be in probably most every lineup I have if there is no DeGrom, and if there is DeGrom, he'll probably still be in 30 to 40%. Maybe
we've got a problem because I don't have a speech about one of us is going to win, because so far I'm right there with you pretty much on everything so far. I have Wheeler clearly the number 1 pitcher, like a pretty decent sized drop down. That's the way I look at it, at least, to the next guy. And again, the only thing that would compete with Wheeler for SP1 status would be DeGrom, and to the point where I'd probably try to play them both anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah, or maybe, you know what? Maybe you're right. Even if DeGrom did pitch, maybe Wheeler's. So what? So let's talk about DeGrom again for a second. I don't even know if he's pitching or whatever. But again, the thing going against him is he can only pitch 7 innings.
No, that's not going against him at all. That's not against him at all.
But what I was going to say is the thing going for him is that he can only pitch 7 innings, right? Because he's got the complete game locked, right?
There's really no downside to the 7 innings for him.
Okay.
In my opinion. I mean, how often does DeGrom even go more than 7 innings?
Okay.
Even with all this stuff this year, we'd have to go back. He's had 2 starts over 7 innings in his last 20. So I don't. It's totally irrelevant. With the bonus factor of he can get the complete game, like you said. So it really depends on who the pitcher is in those 7-inning games. But for the most part, it should always give every pitcher a giant boost, because then they go straight to the what's it called right afterwards, the setup man and the closer. So even if you pitch 5 innings, you're more likely to get the win if that's what they're going to do with their thing. You also have, basically everybody has complete game possibilities if you're going to pitch 7 innings. In fact, on the other side of that game, Brett Anderson, like I said, just pitched 7 innings 2 starts ago and had 30 fantasy points. If he pitched 7 innings today, obviously he gets the complete game. All right, Oakland at Houston. So, boy, it feels like I've seen Manaea pitch really well against this Houston team in the past, and I've seen him get lit up by this Houston team in the past. I am probably not going to be playing Sean Manaea, but you're playing the $6 and you want to get some other exposures, then assuming that DeGrom doesn't pitch and Wheeler's not in, and you don't want to play Wheeler, or you want to play him with Wheeler. Manaea, I think, is an interesting long shot play. And on the other side, I think Garcia is probably better than a long shot play, and probably going to get overlooked on this slate until DeGrom is not pitching, if that happens. So I have Garcia as my 5th guy that I would use. I don't know that I'm going to end up getting to him, but I do think he's kind of interesting. And I probably won't get to Manaea because I'm not going to play 150 tonight, but I do think that he would be in play as well if I was.
Yeah, so I'm not playing Manaea. This is kind of like behind the scenes stuff. Like whenever Luis Garcia is pitching, I have to figure out how to automate this. I have an issue every time with my early projections, and then I have to use them to go my later ones because there are 2 Luis Garcias. One's a pitcher and one's a batter, and they both are going to project, and so it's like I'll either get Luis Garcia projected for 6 fantasy points as the pitcher, right, or the batter getting 40. or like 25 or something. So I got to figure out how to automate that. So right now I don't have a projection. I don't have any input on Garcia, but I will. But we've played him as, I don't want to say as chalk, but with a lot more ownership recently against tougher teams. I mean, you can attack Oakland with a guy like this, I guess, right?
I don't know about tougher teams.
Okay.
I mean, the A's are one of the better teams in baseball.
Oh, okay.
They do have some strikeouts in there, but I mean, like he was pitching against Detroit in Baltimore.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if I would go tougher.
Okay. So I have no opinion on that yet. So for me, I just have a cross off basically this game right now.
Yeah, Garcia is, he does have a 6.5 K prop. We don't have a whole lot of huge K props on the slate, so I just thought I'd throw that out there. Senzatella and Castellanos in Arizona. I could tell you a bunch of different things to go in this game.
Uh-oh.
I think you could stack either side. I think you could fade this game entirely. I actually think this game will get a ton of ownership, especially Peralta, Rojas, all the Arizona guys. I'd be inclined at that point just to kind of fade it personally. I know they're cheap. There's other cheap options out there. I just would rather not play the ultimate chalk being Colorado and Arizona, who are two of the worst offenses and worst teams overall in baseball, especially Arizona. Well, actually, Colorado away from home is pretty much as bad as Arizona, which Arizona might be the worst team in baseball. So I don't have a ton of interest here at trying to play these guys at chalk. If they were low owned like you got them last night, maybe that's a different story. I just don't see the reason to play 30+% owned guys on this slate. Will I filter some of them in? Sure. Peralta's cheap, Daza's cheap, Rojas is cheap, Walker's cheap. These are all going to be really popular. Pavin Smith maybe will get a little bit lower ownership. No, I doubt it. He's 2.8 also. You might see Josh Reddick back in the lineup. You should see him back in the lineup batting 6th. He's 26. He'll be the low owned of the bunch. So if you do it, try to include a Reddick. Try to include, if you're going to play the Rockies, try to include Tapia or Blackman or McMahon. Those are going to be the lower owned guys because all these cheapos are going to be really, really popular.
Yeah, therein lies the issue. I don't think I'm going to well, it's an ownership thing again, like you just said. I mean, it's funny. This is where Arizona was sitting yesterday. Right now, everything changed. It was weird yesterday, right?
Nobody ever thought Arizona was going to be 30% owned guys yesterday.
Okay.
Really?
Well,
I mean,
I think that when DeGrom was
I don't think it had any impact at all. There was so many cheap bats, and there was 15 games late. Like David Dahl. Well, one thing, we keep acting like Arizona was the better chalk. David Dahl had 19 fantasy points and was 2,300. You know what I mean? He was the guy in my main lineup, so it wasn't like we needed Arizona to win last night. It just happened to be that they filled in the roster nicely for you. But I never got the impression that anybody would be above 10% on Arizona last night.
Okay.
I do think tonight though.
Yeah, so I have them ranked right now as kind of the same as usual, man. I have them like with Baltimore as like a decent value that's going to get ownership. So I don't know if I'm gonna play that. I'll just keep continue to monitor ownership and take a look. I mean, I think there are other places I can go. But I do think that I like the way those guys swing. I like Peralta. I like Rojas. I got to make sure that he's playing. Got to make sure the right Rojas is out or right Rojas is in. And I don't think I need a 5-man stack these guys, but I'll probably end up with some of them.
Yeah, I mean, I might end up with a piece here or the two as well, but I just don't see the full stack of really chalky, terrible offenses being a good option. Maybe if there was.
Hey, wait, when you put it that way, hey, you're right.
They are. I mean, they're awful. Like you could look at every number, and they are literally just really awful. Alex Wood in San Francisco against St. Louis here. I think Alex Wood is a very good option. I'm a little surprised that the early ownership's being quite as high on them as he is. I had him initially without DeGrom as my second pitcher or my third pitcher if DeGrom was pitching, but I don't think it's like you need to do that. It's not like St. Louis doesn't have guys who have hit lefties okay, even though they haven't this year as much. They historically hit lefties well. Alex Wood struggles to get through 5 innings against the worst offenses in baseball. I don't really know if I want to do this as a chalky play, but I don't have a whole lot of pitching options. What do you think?
Yeah, a couple of these ownerships don't make sense. I mean, again, this is early. I mean, when my first ownership run of Alex Wood has him like 28%. I just think there are other options that are just as good that right now have lower ownership. So I think those things are going to condense. Yeah, I mean, like right now, he looks like one of many SP2s. What many? I have him tied with 2 other guys actually as my favorite SP2s. And that excludes Garcia, which I don't know about yet. So I definitely think he's fine. And you know what? I like not so much on DraftKings, but I do have San Francisco on FanDuel a little bit as far as hitting goes. And, this is the second time in the last couple of days we said that, right? San Francisco, like one of those teams, it's like always like, I'm gonna say mispriced, but always priced like relatively lower on FanDuel, even relative to other teams where they're showing up more on FanDuel than DraftKings.
Yeah, but I think they're just as good on DraftKings, if not better. I think there's.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you're going to play them, I'm not going to do it probably too much, but I think that slightly lower ownership maybe than some of the chalk in Arizona, Alex Dickerson and Lamont Wade especially. Yastrzemski, if you can get him in, he's expensive. So people probably aren't going to pay up for those, but this is the second highest run total on the slate. I'm completely on board if you want to take some shots here. I just don't think that I want to stack them. That's just where I'm at right now. I don't know that I want a full 5-man in that park when I like some of the other options. If I'm going to do a team in a bad hitter's park, I'm going to play the Dodgers, who are much more potent offense in Miami. So that's where I stand on between those two. I just would rather have the Dodgers. The problem is you don't get the value for the Dodgers outside of Gavin Lux. So San Francisco, how you get Dickerson, you can get Wade. Those are really the only two actually that really stand out. I guess you could say Duggar at the bottom of the order, but it's the same as Pollock for the Dodgers. So I would rather play the Dodgers, I guess, is the way I'm looking at it, over the Giants. But I do like Dickerson and Wade.
Like Paddock at all?
Yep. I think that I'm not terribly afraid of Washington. I don't really see why Paddock would be that far beneath in terms of projected ownership. I think it'll climb. I think it's just wrong. I think they're probably going to end up being similar. But yeah. Paddock, I would have as good a play, potentially better than Wood, but I have it as pretty close. If I didn't look at ownership and if I knew for sure they're going to be exactly the same amount owned, I think I would take Paddock. I think I would take Wood. It's close, but I'm sort of debating between the two. I do think Paddock ends up a little bit less owned, and I think that I would just be inclined to take Paddock in that situation. They both have the same K prop. Paddock has been much better this year in general. Washington's offense is obviously missing some pieces. And then while I'm completely planning on San Diego as my other stack, at the same time, I think we would be idiots if we don't play Patrick Corbin on this slate. I think it's I actually think it would be like, if you're playing like 10 lineups and he's not in one of them, I think you're making a mistake on DraftKings. Just there's nobody, first of all, I think he has as much or more upside than Wood or Paddock. The matchup's tough. He's pitched against tough righties his whole career. And I know he's struggled a little bit lately, but we're a few starts removed from him being, pretty dominant in a couple starts, and he's streaky and all that stuff. There is still K upside for him. Look, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but at no ownership compared to Paddock and Wood, who are going to be much higher owned, I'll take that shot all day long. I think that might be maybe that's where I can get a little bit different tonight, in addition to my Dodgers stack, is to play Pat Corbin.
Yeah, it's I don't know if I'm going to be getting to Corbin. I do think that I will be getting to the Padres. And then that's not going to be particularly earth-shattering. I think that the Padres and the other team you mentioned, I think the Dodgers are both very natural, like I said, pivots off of off of Toronto. And San Diego's got to be. I mean, they just have to be used. I think. And I do agree with you with respect to Corbin's upside. You know what I mean? Like when he gets it going, you know what I mean? He's really good. The thing I would also mention, by the way, and I only know this because I was really heavy anti-sweating San Diego near the end of yesterday's game. So Machado in his last at bat, he like fouled the ball off his foot, and I was 100% confident he was coming out of the game mid at bat. I had a text all prepared for you saying, "Hope it's not serious, but have a seat, sir." And I really thought they were going to pull him, and they left him in the game. He limped up to the freaking plate and he hit the ball all the way to the wall.
Yeah.
He might be out. I'm just guessing. You know, I mean, he was really hurt after he fouled that ball off. I don't know. So just keep an eye out for that. Yeah, I know Corbin could do it. I just had this visual of these freaking right-handers just freaking waiting and just crushing the freaking ball. I don't know, man. It's gonna be a rough sell for me to play Corbin, which he's gonna keep him really, really low owned, I think.
That's the appeal for Corbin. I'm not saying he's gonna go out there. Look, the Padres are my third favorite stack today. So I can't say that I'm like too in love with Corbin, but this guy still can strike people out. Against these San Diego hitters in general, he doesn't have as much history as you might think. Will Myers has kind of owned him a little bit, which you might want to keep in mind. I actually like Will Myers, and he's been sort of falling by the wayside lately in terms of ownership. Every day he's projected to be super high owned on FanDuel and especially FanDuel because he's 2,300 and he never gets owned. But he hit a home run and a double last. Like he was in my secondary lineup and almost got me to full cash mode on DK. That was the one that was missing. But Will Myers, Machado, Pham, Tatis would be the main ones. What I would keep saying is, as long as Trent Grisham is in the lineup and low owned, if you're going to make a stack with San Diego, play Trent Grisham. Play Trent Grisham in the lefties. Don't worry about it. It doesn't really matter it doesn't matter as much as the ownership will reflect it. He's not 30 times worse of a play than these other guys who are going to be 25, 30% owned. And on top of that, Corbin is susceptible to stolen bases. So if you did have a stack, guys like Pham, Tatis, Myers, and Grisham would be the ones who stand out the most to me from that standpoint. And then Machado would be the fifth guy you'd want to get in. But I do love the Grisham play. He is the way you get different with the San Diego stack, in my opinion.
So not only did you identify Talion as the best of those 7,500 yesterday, but you also identified him as a play on FanDuel, which was a huge home run.
6%, yeah.
And so you tell me, why are we not doing the same thing with Herman today?
Herman hasn't even flashed the what's it called, the innings upside. But then you look at the matchups. He had the Angels at home, got roughed up. He was pitching at Boston, got roughed up. Oakland at home, got roughed up a little bit. Philly on the road, that one I don't have a whole lot of excuses for, although Philly's been hitting the ball. He got roughed up there. Boston before that, Tampa Bay. This isn't a much different situation than pitching in the best American League pitchers park in Seattle. So I have Herman beneath the other guys who I've mentioned. I actually think Corbin's a better play than Herman, believe it or not, just because I think you're getting more upside with lower ownership. Simple as that. But I would say that I expect Herman to be better here more often than I expect Corbin to be. So I like her. I like Herman. Okay. I don't think I'm going to go crazy with him tonight, but he's definitely going to be sprinkled in, and maybe I'll change my mind by later. But as of right now, I've just, he hasn't looked good enough to me, even though he's had some tough matchups. Like I was saying, he hasn't looked good enough to me to where I feel as comfortable rostering him. At least I can go back a couple starts and find the 25s out of Corbin. It takes a while. You have to look back a good 7-8 starts before you see Herman pitching pretty well. And it doesn't mean he can't today. It just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. I actually don't mind a couple of, low on Seattle bats on the other side. Mostly it'd be Mitch Haniger. Bowers is minimum cost, so he'd be another one of the value guys. And Ty France is really cheap. So I don't think I'm stacking them, but I think they're kind of interesting from that perspective. And it's interesting that no one's going to play the Yankees again, right? Like, they ended up getting on him a little bit yesterday, but I think the Yankees, more so Stanton, Judge, Sanchez, the ones with power. Voit is really too cheap at 4.1. I like Kikuchi. I don't want to pick on him like for a full stack, but I definitely will be sprinkling in the Yankees hitters. I think that they make a lot of sense as a mini stack to me, or even just like a 1 or 2 off kind of situation. The one thing is, like, you can look at Kikuchi's game log, and he's just been really good. He will give up some home runs. He's gotten as he's become a better pitcher, he'll give up a couple home runs here and there, but he's just become a much better pitcher in general. So I don't really want to play him against the Yankees. But at the same time, I probably won't stack the Yankees. I will be looking at for them for one-offs.
Yeah, I have the Yankees as like a 5th best stack on FanDuel. That's pretty much about it. Kikuchi definitely is a good pitcher. He's just a little too expensive, and this matchup is a little bit just too fishy. So I don't think I'm going to get there.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I do that. The more I look at it, Voit maybe the best play on this side. 4.1 seems very reasonable against a lefty for him, especially a lefty who can take power. So, all right. Well, so just to sum up real quick for me, I guess, Sheets,
go for it.
Let Sheets go last, since he's the one who wins all the money, so he gets to say it last. DeGrom, if he pitches, and Wheeler obviously are the guys who stand out. The guys who I'm mixing in who are going to be low owned will be Corbin, or lower owned Corbin, Herman, and Garcia. And then the more logical middle of the road plays are Wood and Paddock. Wheeler, Wood, and Paddock are probably the natural places you want to start today. And you can throw in a Ryu, you could throw in an Anderson, you could throw in a Herman or a Corbin. I think that Wheeler stands out as being better than everyone else, even with the hitter's umpire. And I may end up coming onto the Garcia thing a little bit more as the day goes on. Oakland has some strikeouts in there. Garcia, I don't think is going to be crazy high owned, and I don't mind paying that price for him. He's got good K stuff. So for hitting, Toronto, followed by the Dodgers and San Diego for me. But I think I would like to, like Sheets said, like I'd like to try and get 3-mans or 2-mans of Toronto, maybe even a 4-man, but not a 5-man, just because it's going to be so popular. It's going to be so hard to differentiate yourself on this small slate if you just play all the Toronto stuff. The other ones, the individual value I listed on my plays on our site. Check it out, truedfs.com. And I like some weird one, a Bellinger, Lux, Will Myers, Tatis, Grisham, Voit, and then value would be Dickerson, Wade, Yan Gomes, who I didn't mention, David Peralta is the obvious value, popular chalk, but there's going to be plenty of non-chalk options that are cheap, and I would just encourage you to try and play those.
So for me right now, where's the top pitcher? I'm presuming DeGrom's not pitching right now.
Yeah, me too.
Wheeler, the top pitcher, and I have close between Wood, Paddock, and Herman. And then with respect to stacks, I guess, again, if I had to go on the ownership and everything I have now, I would actually probably try to avoid Toronto and play maybe San Diego or something like that. But if as far as value goes, I do like Baltimore again in that same stadium, and I do like the Arizonas. So, but depending on ownership, we'll see how that goes. And one other team that I didn't mention, actually you did a little bit, just saying that they were going to be cheap, was Washington a little bit. I think that we kind of touched on most of the one-offs. So let me just look real quick. So Santana, I already said Santana, Hayes, Springer, Hernandez. I mean, the guys from the same games, honestly. And these guys we all touched on. The Toronto guys, the Baltimore guys, Arizona guys, they're all pretty cheap.
I did miss on one guy who I should have mentioned. That's Juan Soto as a one-off.
Okay.
Going to be low owned, and makes no sense that he's 4.5K. Like, this is a 5.5K plus player. Like,
wow, what happened to that, huh?
And it's not like he's like not doing anything at all. Like, I mean, he hit a home run yesterday. And I mean, he's been struggling overall by his standards, but he's still one of the better hitters in baseball, and he's 4.5K. So you get he and Bellinger as low-owned one-offs, and you can maybe that's how you can sort of stack Toronto around them or something, with one other value guy. All right, guys. Well, good luck to everybody out there. We'll see you hopefully tonight. Somebody else will get a big win. We've had a really, really good run for true DFSers, and hopefully it'll keep going. Hopefully it's you tonight. So good luck, everybody.
Yeah, we're gonna fire up a golf 2 minutes.
Sounds good.